Cheers y'all, it's LJ, and it's time for a long overdue cassette community update. Time to share with y'all some of the things that I've picked up in the past couple of months. And I gotta be honest, every now and then I get asked, why bother? Why collect cassettes? To quote my heavy metal brother from a very Finnish mother, Mikko, over in the vinyl corner, it's about as much fun as you can have with your pants on. Here we go. So let's start with what's playing in the background. This is Fate's Warning, Awaken the Guardian. This is an excellent album. Some of these I do have on vinyl, some I don't. This is one that I do have on vinyl. Fate's Warning on Metal Blade from 1986. And if you're familiar with Fate's Warning, you know it's in the vein of a Queensryche at the same time. I always thought this spun brilliantly back to back with Queensryche's Rage for Order. Very similar albums. Excellent stuff. Now, Greeno 22 here in the vinyl community decided it was time to clean out some of his cassettes. He knew who to call, and Greeno was cool enough to hook me up with some that he wanted to get rid of, some that I needed, some that I needed upgrades for. You know, just like vinyl, cassettes will start to drag sometimes. So I did pick some up from Greeno. He helped plug some holes in my collection, which was just awesome. A few from the Slayer front. Here's Live Undead. I didn't have a copy of Live Undead on cassette. I think this is an excellent album. I used to draw a Tom Araya skeleton face on my math book in middle school. That was excellent. Thanks, Greeno. And the second was just epic. Hell Awaits has to be one of my favorite Slayer albums. Slayer from, I love Show No Mercy, but from Hell Awaits, that's where really the production picked up and it started to sound really good. They really found their niche. They dropped the eyeliner, and Hell Awaits, Rain and Blood, of course, South of Heaven, and Seasons in the Abyss, and even Divine Intervention to a large degree. They're just epic metal masterpieces. Speaking of which, Divine Intervention is one I was missing as well. Very cool of Greeno to send that over. I also picked up a copy of Rain and Blood from Greeno as well, which is on the shelf over there. This is on the red cassette. I had a sealed copy of Rain and Blood that Craig, Zappa21786, had picked up for me as Cassette Community Love Train, CCLT, a while back, but I just never wanted to open it, so it was really cool to be able to get an open copy from Greeno that I can listen to, and man, they sound awesome. There's a couple more from Greeno here. First is, I didn't have Death Angel's Frolic in the Park on cassette. I had Act 3, and I have Act 3 on vinyl as well. This is their second album. Death Angel, I think they're unfairly lumped in with the San Francisco Bay Area thrash movement. They're thrashy, but there's a lot of funk in there. Good album. Next is an upgrade copy of Live After Death by Maiden. You really don't need to say much about this, except the copy that I had, the reels had mildew in them, and I can't, with a good heart and a clear conscience, play those in my cassette deck. So I always just hope to find another one, and there was Greeno with one. And the last one from Greeno, this is one he picked up while he was out digging. This is very cool. This is a Japanese copy of The Wall by Pink Floyd. So he was out digging one day, and he called me quick, and he said, hey, I found this. Are you interested? Hell yeah. So, very cool, paper fold out. It's in a white case, and you open it up. I can't believe paper overlay is hung on all these years. There's a cassette, orange paper label, and inside here is the lyric sheet, still intact. I guess the cassette equivalent to an Obi sash on vinyl. That was a very, very, very neat piece, a neat thing to find and add to the collection. I have to be honest to answer anyone's questions that might be wondering, do Japanese cassettes sound as amazing as Japanese albums do? No, but they sound pretty cool. It doesn't sound bad, it's just not... It's not a revelation in Pink Floydism. It's cool though. Alright, here come a bunch of the ones that I've found. A lot of these turned up at the same place over time. It's an antique mall that's not too far from here, and the guy had kind of been filtering cassettes in slowly but surely, and I see them, and it's just you gotta dive in and grab them when you see them. But here we go. The first couple were two that I was missing from Sabotage. I love Sabotage. A very Queensryche in the Shadow band. And started the same way. These two first albums, Sirens and The Dungeons Are Calling, from 83 and 84 respectively, And The Dungeons Are Calling is actually from, it was recorded the same time that Sirens was, their first album, and released a year later. So they sound very similar, and they're just that early 80s, you know, not quite thrash, but real heavy metal. Definitely not the Sabotage that they would go on to become, which they were by the time they released Streets, a rock opera. And that was the last Sabotage album I was missing on cassette. I believe I have 10 or 11 now, and they do no wrong. They're an excellent band. For me, they evolved a lot like Queensryche. They just kind of went from that early fantasy, epic Dungeons and Dragons stuff up through progressive metal, and it's all really good, except for Jeff Tate's new project. That's not really good. That is trash. Stay away from that. Here's Violent. No opinion there, though. Eternal Nightmare. Again, a Bay Area thrash band, very, very much in the vein of a Testament. Clear cassette, not a whole lot to show. Just a really solid, heavy thrash album from the Bay Area in the late 80s. What else do we have here? Oh, very cool. I believe this is the only King Diamond / Merciful Fate tape I was missing. This is A Dangerous Meeting, and it's a compilation of King Diamond and Merciful Fate tracks, from starting with, Melissa and A Dangerous, all the way up through King Diamond's The Eye. So lots of different tracks. It plays really well. The band changed a lot during that time, so you have stuff from Melissa and Don't Break the Oath, King Diamond solo stuff from them and Abigail and The Eye, but I mean, I love it all. King Diamond and Merciful Fate can and have done no wrong for me ever, so it was a great listen. Here's some more great 80s metal. Here's Omen, Warning of Danger. Just raw 80s heavy metal on Enigma Metal Blade. Absolutely just classic 80s heavy metal. I have a few other releases from Omen. They're a little tricky to find on vinyl, but they're worth it. A little bit of death metal. I know I've said in the past, and I mean it, I am not a death metal person, but there was a time in the early 90s where I was really trying to get into it, and because of that, I have what I'll call legacy favorites. Stuff that, even though it never clicked, it never worked, I just know those albums really well from trying to get into it, and of course, Sepultura is one of them. The last two Sepultura albums I was missing on cassette, here's Schizophrenia. Sepultura is a band I did get into, and I do really, really like. They stuck with me, and they're about as far death metal as I get. Schizophrenia has Troops of Doom on it, which is an epic, epic song. And this is one that I hadn't heard of, Refuse, Resist. And this is an EP, 5 songs. Orgasmatron is on that live. Thought Orgasmatron was on this as well. It's on another release, my bad. Still, absolutely excellent, just again, it's an EP, it's 5 songs, fantastic release. Another band I really got into when I was getting into death metal, or trying to, is Morbid Angel. Here's Blessed Are the Sick, which is cool because I had already Altars of Madness, which was my first Morbid Angel album. I believe it's their first release, and it's an excellent album. Even though it's death metal, I get it, but it's one of those, it just sticks. So to find Blessed Are the Sick, or Blessed Are the Sick, was really cool, because I picked up both when I was trying to get into death metal back in the late 80s, early 90s. 2 more that are both in the death metal vein. Here's Possessed with 7 Churches. I mean, these guys pretty much set the template for death metal. It's just a later reissue from Combat, so not a whole lot going on in the inlay, but I think I have 4 from Possessed on cassette. It was very cool to find 7 Churches, and one I had looked for ages. This was, if I had to say I had a favorite death metal cassette, it might well be Obituary's Cause of Death. This is the one that I said, I'm going to get into death metal, and I'm going to dig it, and they were a shoo-in already, just because of the use of the H.P. Lovecraft art on the cover. And I had Slowly We Rot, which came before this, and I just did not dig that very much. But Cause of Death, I thought, added a bit of melody to the death metal, so while the vocals aggravate me a bit sometimes, it's still a really good cassette, and I'm glad I found it. Absolutely epic. Here's Samhain 3, November Coming Fire. And I mean, the Misfits became Samhain, became Danzig, right? And November Coming Fire is the middle album of the 4. Actually, there's an EP, and I had earlier found their first release, Initium, from '84, which has 2 folks that would go on to join Danzig, including Danzig himself. And I had Final Descent from 1990, which pretty much is Danzig in all but name. It has Chuck Biscuits, Eerie Vaughn, Glenn Danzig, and John Christ, which that's Danzig. And this is from 1987, 1990. So right immediately after this, Danzig released their first self-named band tape, which is the same band. So this sounds very much like Danzig. This sounds a lot more like the Misfits, but slowed down a bit, being from '84, right after the Misfits ended. November Coming Fire slides right in between them, and it was always one of my favorite from that band. And this is, they're far away from the Misfits, but they're not yet Danzig. This is from just a few years before that, 86 maybe, I don't see the date. Excellent, excellent album. There's 3 left here. I'll save the coolest one for last. We're almost there. Here's Glenn Tipton's solo release, Baptism of Fire. This was very cool. Glenn Tipton, guitarist from Judas Priest, and what drove me to pick this up, not only is it metal, and I like Tipton, but Robert Trujillo from Suicidal Tendencies and Metallica lays down bass on a few tracks, so you know it's just going to be funky, and that guy's an animal. That was a really good album. Early Suicidal Tendencies release, Join the Army. This one has the distinct something or other, distinction of having traveled with me to Kentucky in the backseat of the car in middle school. I brought Slayer's Show No Mercy in my Walkman, Suicidal Tendencies, Join the Army, I believe How Will I Laugh Tomorrow When I Can't Smile Today, and Metallica's Master of Puppets. And man, that was just when Mom, I need batteries, because your Walkman dies, and sitting in the back with no seatbelts on, man, those were the days. The cassette sounds like hell, just because it was recorded like hell, but it's just such a great album. Some classic Suicidal there. And probably the coolest one, here is Metallica's Garage Days Revisited. I know what you're saying, that's not Garage Days. This is Garage Days. It is, but so is this. And this is a bootleg release of Garage Days. This was released, another fine production from Metrock, made in the USA. And it is the same album that Garage Days is, just with a different cover, and it's a clear cassette. So I haven't bothered really to do any research, but if you've ever seen this before, drop a comment and let me know what it's all about. Because this, along with Cliff 'Em All, which is a live recording, I'm not sure if both were by Metrock. No, this was made in Germany. But again, 2 very cool, very obscure Metallica releases, piece releases. Time to end this video from the Metallica catalog. So that's it. Feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks everybody for checking this out. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.